Hi everyone. This is another vlog, and what's today's date? It's January 30th, 2022. So we originally started talking about the vlog at some point in the summer. It's winter. One of the things that I really wanted to do was kind of give a chronicle with HRT for me. There was a long ass delay with that because my insurance took forever to approve the medications. All right, gonna get there. I do have a bit of an idea of what I'm going to go into. So, content warnings for abuse, family abuse, some rough emotional stuff, toxic masculinity, HRT, PMDD. Might mention something about vulvas or vulvodynia or something related. Who knows? Insurance shittiness. So with that in mind, those are at least what I have an idea about right now. I won't waste time giving more content warnings during the thing. If you're here, you're here. Love you all. I've had quite the time with PMDD, premenstrual dysphoria disorder. I've talked a bit about that before. And after trying at least a few different kinds of birth control, none of them worked. I basically got all the side effects. I also figured out that there were allergies triggering problems in all of that. Also, gender dysphoria just went off the fucking rails with those as well. And so, I've been through a lot of traditional stuff. After talking with my doctor and, my therapist, we decided that not to go down the antidepressant route for me. There's really weird ways that my body seems to interact with medications, and given my history with other things that I've tried in the past, we decided that probably wasn't worth the risk. So it took me a while to get, to figure out how to address this stuff. All right, because over time I'm developing PMDD, but also figuring out gender stuff, right? From, my teen years, I always had, I knew I wasn't a girl. I could very viscerally say, I'm not a girl. Did I have language beyond that for a long time? No. In fact, it took me a while to figure out what non-binary was, right? This was the early 2000s, all right? I graduated in 2011. Even doing a lot of my, activism in education then and doing all the research that I did, non-binary really wasn't a word in people's vocabulary. That's not what was being commonly used to describe things, right? The big organizations putting out data weren't using that. So that's not to say that these concepts didn't exist. It very clearly did. I'm here, okay? Just that we didn't have the language for it. And it's been a long journey figuring out what I need to honor those masculine parts of me. And that's been really rough. And it's especially been rough lately. There's this way that things kind of, I don't know, get background. I guess I find myself very divorced from a lot of other trans men, just because of sheer numbers of what I'm around. And I think that's a thing unique to me. I don't think that's a larger thing. I'm not sure if I'm just not finding communities, as well as I could. It's been a hard one. And so I'm in this really weird place though, because I've got PMDD, which is very much something that a lot of cis women deal with. And frankly, anybody with an AFAB body can. In fact, I have questions about how, hormones and other stuff can affect, trans femme people too, right? I don't think there's only one way that this stuff goes. So where am I going? Right. So PMDD, how do I treat it though? Right? If I am getting more and more dysphoria and really rough during PMDD, that's when, frankly, a lot of the gender dysphoria comes up as well. What do we do, right? So eventually though, I do figure out that I do have an option. All right. We finally asked the question, if, birth control is not working, I really don't want like anything else. I'm really not attached to like feminine hormones or anything like that. What about the other side? What about T? All right. And so, got in touch with a doctor who was like, all right, you know what? You could try DHEA. And really liked that. It's the precursor to testosterone. No, you cannot use it to transition. Don't do that. But I've really enjoyed that for a while and found myself really wanting to go up on the doses and actually just have more of it in my system. I really like how I feel. Emotionally speaking, it's like being, and this is my body, okay? I'm in a weird body with hormones, all right? But for me though, I started feeling more normal. Okay. The really large, emotions and swings from PMDD were not as bad. They definitely got a lot better. And so I definitely relate to a lot of ideas about, how masculine, or AMAB body emotions seem to work. That definitely seems to be what I operate on. Whenever there's like generalizations about these things, no, I tend to be on that side. Okay. Whether or not, people want to see me as masculine, well, that's another story. So I was hoping to start this vlog with, starting to kind of exploring some of that. That was in the summer. That's when we first, we went, okay, what, DHA is probably not enough. Testosterone, though, would give me a lot more control. All right. We figure, doing a gel would also give me a lot more control as well. That's why I'm not, doing injections. I finally have it. Holy fuck. I finally have this shit. This fucking little box. That my poor pharmacist, who's like this amazing queer person, right? Like probably the only other like one of the other like few like queer people in town, has been like, God damn it, I can finally like give this to you and I don't have to put it on the shelf for the 5th time. All right, insurance is just fighting tooth and nail for this, so I finally have it. So like all of that excitement and like the feel good and the holy shit, I get to do this, like this is gonna be great. All of that like faded like a couple months ago. And that kind of sucks. Like, goddamn it, insurance. I really did wish I didn't have to wait so long, but here I am. And most of these big things have been kind of rough lately. I did start it. I did get to start. I'm on like an absurdly low dose right now too. My intention is to microdose and be on microdosing for a long period. Mostly because like I want the overall emotional effect. I'm not looking for a physical transition from it. In fact, I'm hoping to dodge most of that. That's actually, not super my jam. Welcome to being non-binary, where you're like, I don't fit anywhere fully. This is great. So I want to chronologue some of this because I don't find that there are really many other people in my boat. One, dealing with PMDD is already, a small subset. Also dealing with PMDD in the way of like, no, I've got to actually figure out a way to do this, like, that's gender affirming and using a completely different method than what than what the medical establishment would normally suggest. Again, been through that shit. And I think the thing that I'm dealing with right now is a lot of fear around emotions and having them. one of the things that's been coming up lately is this idea, this belief that is still hanging around, that emotions, particularly my emotions, are dangerous. We're not being there's two parts to this, right? Emotions are dangerous, or that not being in control of my emotions more so is the dangerous part. And dangerous in two ways. One, outward reactions, right? How does this affect other people? Will other people be hurt some way? Two, if I'm not fully aware, right? If I'm not fully in control of everything of me and able to notice every goddamn fucking thing in the world, will I get hurt? I think those are the two big things that are going on. All right. I grew up with an abusive male parental unit. I say male parental unit because sperm donor is even too much credit. All right. Anybody can fuck people, like whatever. And so no, it was a lot of like, he would get really angry all the time and be yelling at you for hours, like literal, like several hour chunks. He would just keep going. And there was a lot of what he did was yelling. Most of it was yelling. Very rarely was it physical from him. Though that did happen occasionally. So yeah, if that's the idea of masculinity that I've got, right? That's, what are we doing here, right? Why am I going towards masculinity when, like, that's probably my main example, honestly? I don't have a good answer. I really don't, other than there's something, in me that happens to be that way. And so the other half, right, is if I'm not in control of me, if I'm not always aware and always like have it together, as a kid, that would have gotten me hurt. Okay. Hurts in a variety of ways, right? It could be like, and you don't get to see people for a while. You don't get to, talk to your friends. You're going to get something taken away for some stupid amount of time because I said so. Let me be honest. When you're like, the next event you go to, you don't get to do it. Like, how do you even like enforce that, right? Like, that's just shitty. Like, you can't. All right, tough love my fucking ass. And so like we had to pay attention to everything. God, okay, it's 10 years later, all right? Like, since I've been in that, since I moved out, all right, and I still listen to all of the footsteps, all right? And I live in an apartment, okay? Like, my upstairs neighbors, like, we hear all the footsteps. We don't usually hear voices, but the footsteps, yeah. I still listen to all of it. I do. It doesn't go away. I map out where people are at in the house, where people are at upstairs. I picked up that skill as a kid. So that's where testosterone is really weird. Because in my body is very, very sensitive to hormone shifts. All right. Do we have a reason why? No, I don't. Just that is the way that is, and that's about where the research is at. PMDD on its own does very large, very intense, and long-lasting emotions. So there is a lot of feeling of lack of control, of lack of, like, being able to manage. All right, when Jess is like, no, sometimes I just gotta sit with it. Yeah, because even, that's super a thing, because even after I have pieced through something, I know that something is, already handled, already settled. We've apologized, we've hugged it out, and my body is still there feeling the pain and the hurt or the anger or the irritation or something. It is still in me. I still feel that emotion very viscerally on, my skin. In fact, especially with PMDD, it's emotions aren't just something like happening. They are very like, it feels like it actually will come up as like a literal physical pain. Like I got hit almost, and not in a trauma way. Okay, I deal with flashbacks, but like just my arms might be really tense, right? And so I have a lot of concerns because as I've been on, or not, been trying, with DHEA and testosterone, I do notice that the anger is more intense. In my body, at least it's louder. Like I feel it more in my arms and more on me and more in my face. And it feels very much on the surface now. Before starting DHEA, the emotions might have been like here, like clustered, like more inside of me. Okay. They felt a lot softer. And I remember a little bit of this with starting the DHA too, is that sometimes anger would just be really sudden. And then it would fade really suddenly too, But especially like now with a lot of this stuff, more lately, I'm going to say lately because I don't know for sure if it's T or if there's a combination there with PMDD. There very well could be both going on. Most likely there's both. Let's be real here. Okay, PMDD, I guess symptoms during both ovulation and before my period, so give or take here. But no, it comes up very large, very much on my arms, very much on my face, and I can't hide it. I can't, like, I'm not that skilled with it yet. I modulated emotions for a long time as a teen, and mostly into my 20s. I honestly only stopped once I got into a relationship with Jess and went, oh, I'm actually safe enough to stop doing this. And so I don't really want to go back to modulating things. It doesn't sound great. Like that's a Gestalt language is creative adjustment, right? It's something that, a kid came up with to deal with their situation, to keep living. All right. And it's creative adjustment. It's very clever for a kid, but as an adult, do I really need it? Well, I don't really want to go back to doing that. It's not the funnest. I would rather try and deal with things. But there's still a lot of fear that comes up for me just because of that background. Because there is already this fear that, I could be loud or angry and it could hurt somebody, right? And not even that, like, I would be lashing out, just that I would be perceived as hurting them, and that's not the thing that I want to do. If I fight with my family, I don't want them to be scared, right? I also have to contend with they have shit, they have their own trauma, they've got their own stuff going on with them that, probably also makes them really sensitive to people's emotions as well. Jess has shared quite a bit of her background. So yeah, I think just a lot of the excitement kind of died. And it sucks a lot. Because even if I do everything that I could, like I still can't hide a lot of, the emotional stuff. Like I still can't like hide every goddamn micro expression on my face. And during fights, I generally do try to stay pretty still. I try to lower my voice, especially if somebody notices that I'm getting loud, which is easy to do. I try to stay quiet. I try to stay still, so that way it's not perceived as dangerous to anyone. But it still hurts because it still seems like there's a bit of give and take there, right? There's a lot of my fear and also like fear from, other people having to deal with my emotions too. So yeah, I think it's just been really rough kind of trying to deal with that. I don't feel like I have any good roadmaps for masculinity. I really don't. There's really not any like there's maybe two people that had positive influences on me. One of them still in my life. The other person, is somebody that I knew for a long time as a teen. And, so I really don't have any I really don't have that great of like male role models besides like maybe the one person. Yeah. So I think a lot of times it's just feeling lonely for me. There's a lot of like trying to just kind of sit with just trying to sit with the emotions and just kind of figure out how to remap them, right? When Jess is like, no, I kind of got to figure out like what level of engagement Zena needs. A lot of times, at least right now, it is having to just let me sit with it, right? Which can be very anxiety producing, as Jess said earlier in this dream. You know, because yeah, a lot of it's me remapping out how does this work, how does this feel, how does this come up. PMDD is going to make it way more fucking extreme when that hits. Hooray, that's fun. You know, and the hope, granted, let me be clear here, the hope is that eventually, like, the T will actually even out PMDD as well as be gender affirming for me. That is the goal. And I do think we'll still get there. I think it'll just take some time to get there. PMDD doesn't, hormone cycles don't change very fast, okay? Like, it takes a few months, even with, like, trying out, you know, birth control or other stuff to actually, like, really see what's going to happen or what that even out is going to look like. You know, and then for me, you know, there's going to be a lot of figuring out doses and going back and forth. So I guess I just wanted to talk about that. Like, control is weird. I think there's a lot of trauma there. What does chat got, I guess? That's probably a good question now. I just want to talk about this stuff in general. It's been really hard to bring up. Or hard to find time to bring it up. You know, it's hard stuff to sit with. It's not all fun and games like, hey, I got to go do nail polish now. You know, I wish there was more fun things to do on the masculine side. Like, I do just nails, right? I still like it. I still like nails occasionally because I like art. Art's fun. All right, what do we got here? I haven't been paying attention to chat for a minute, so. Aw, there's a kisses in chat. She is a hell of a drug. That's super fucking true. Birth control as a trans mask, super gender dysphoria inducing. Oh, there's a lot of combos there. You know, yeah. I think so there is some research that, like, even, like, cis women can get, like, dysphoria from birth control. I've seen some of that. That's not, like, the most well-known thing. But birth control's a hard one because it affects everybody differently, and so some people might not, like... I don't want to scare anyone off of birth control, especially if that's something that you need to try for you, okay? With PMDD, my suggestion is probably, again, I'm not a doctor, but probably evaluate whether or not what you want to do or what you want to try, all right? It's rough. Some people it's amazing and it works, and other people it's a fucking train wreck. You know, it just depends. Stuff things. Do top surgeries cool for at Astra? But yeah, having to wait a while is definitely different. If you want more information on birth control and a lot of different options, Mama Dr. Jones actually's got some good videos on, like, a bunch of options. They're not just in terms of PMDD, but in general, you know, there is a lot of different benefits that she talks about, you know, that are not just birth control in there. Fearing emotions, having really unhealthy examples of gender, but still leaning towards that gender. Yeah, super fucking true. Similar parents. Intense emotions. All my homies hate ovulation in the LiQWYD phase. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, psychosocialism, for that. Most men don't have good roadmaps either, hence the toxicity. Yeah. So, like, we are kind of in a mess right now, aren't we? I was having this conversation out with somebody on the server the other day, and I don't think I got to posting all of this, but at some point, like in the past 100 years or so, 100, 200, right? Your gender was your job description for life. It was your job description for life. So, at some point somebody questioned that. Figures, right? How many times do like college students change majors? A lot. All right. And simply having like your whole job description for life chosen at birth is just fucking whack. So, all right, we break this down and we go, okay, you know what? Men and women, super equal. All right, cool, neat. And so we kind of figured out how to lift up women and like distill down that, maybe gender is really not that big of a deal. At least not in, that framework, right? Not in the job description framework. Not in like how this, not in all that toxic way. And so we got women who are like, all right, cool. Like I got a lot of narratives around like strong women. All right, women, in math and science and all of that. I've absorbed definitely some of those narratives over the years. And then we're still working on how masculinity works. Because where does that go, right? Okay, like, if we just go, wait a minute, these things are about the same, they're cool, right? Then we kind of are like, wait a minute. And so I have a feeling like it doesn't feel like we really know what to do with masculinity as a society yet. Like, if it's not that big of a deal anymore to like men or women, and we're trying to be like, more equal, and we've empowered one group, and then we've just kind of left the other with like, wait a minute, right? Like, can we normalize healthy emotions and stuff like that? I feel like we've just kind of we've got masculinity still kind of hanging out here with like a lot of confusion around it. Because if you at some point like a lot of things that society considers masculine or feminine just had to do with people's interest or activities, right? It wasn't always really like a subjective internal experience. And so when we start stripping away that stuff, what do we do here? How do we actually relate to this thing? Especially this thing where like you're supposed to not have emotions in a variety of ways, all right? If you're not familiar with some of that concept, you got to do some, research on like feminist theory. So, there's kind of that. That stuff's been in the back of my mind. Yeah, and I think the other part here, though, is that I started out with a very strong framework with feminism already. I have a lot of examples of what not to do, what not to be. And to some degree, like, if I view men and women in general and non-binary folks and trans folks as equal, right, what do I do with the masculine part then? Like, what does that even do? Other than, my emotions work a bit differently, maybe. And so I think that's kind of where I get stuck sometimes, is trying to piece out that in my brain of how do I relate? What does this part of me really like? What do I need from other people to feel valid, to feel like I am being seen? I think I really struggle with that part. I know what I don't like. I know that I don't like when, I'm just seen as a girl, when they want like the really soft, emotional side, right? Or they like kind of, whisper to you and kind of talk to you and kind of like co-conspire with you when they're like talking about their personal drama. Like, I'm super here to like vent, talk, cool, but like there's just something so femme about that interaction that there's just an assumption that like I'm in that girl role with them. All right. I think I'll end it here. Vlogs are kind of rambly. I think that's okay for a vlog, though. I appreciate everyone sticking around. I'll probably give some more updates at some point. Probably updates when things, I guess, kind of happen or more occur to me. Um, Zena's talked about archetypes before. Yeah. Yeah, I tend to think of you know, masculine and femininity as like larger archetypal things, that have been around throughout history, and we may or may not really use them, right? That's usually kind of how I am. I guess I really want a version of masculinity that lets me be freeform and colorful. The colorful parts have always been there. They've always been really strong, right? Like middle school me wore tie-dye every day, right? It was like 2000s. We were still making tie-dye like all the fucking time. I had a lot of shirts, but I just love color. Like I really, really love color and using color. In fact, it's hard to go back and watercolor and like, shit, I have to go draw something now, and I really just want to paint and smear color on the page. That's all I want to do. So if you happen to be out there and are like, what as a man can I do to make like gender stuff more equal, more color for everybody? That's what I like. I think that's where I want to start. Just color in general, right? Wear that shirt, wear the bright ass green shirt, wear the pink one, wear the purple one. I don't care. Wear the colors that they don't sell in the store. Fuck them. So, all right, everyone, let's call that vlog here. Love you all. Thanks for coming, and thanks for giving me some space to kind of vent and talk. I really appreciate it. And yeah, see you in the next one. Bye.
If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, consider donating to us. You can support us on our website, transgirltherapist.org. You can also help us on our Patreon, link below, or you can become a member here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching.